like never before. Join us as we drive into the world of politics through insightful interviews with prominent political figures, both serving and former governors, ministers, senators, legislators, party chieftains, activists, and analysts. Get first-hand information into the decision-making processes that affect our daily lives. Highly engaging one-hour program that brings political discourse into focus.
I am Chukwuma Okoro.
Political Lens, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Join us.
Behind every broken desk lies a broken promise. Education shapes the nations. But who is asking the right questions? Introducing Edu Dialogue, the show that goes beyond the surface, exposes the cracks, the corruption, and the silence in Nigeria's education system. Edu Dialogue, Saturdays, 3 p.m., only on VOP TV. We break the biggest stories, from missing funds to policy failures. We ask the tough questions and demand real answers. Edu Dialogue, this Saturday, 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television.
We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are Voice of the People TV. Also follow us on all our social media platforms. We are at VOP TV Live. Visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news.
Well, hello and welcome to the African News and Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before beginning news, I would urge you to kindly visit our website. It's www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news stories. We begin the African news from the story where at least 7 persons have died and dozens are missing after a boat carrying around 200 migrants capsized off the coast of the Gambia. Guinea's defense ministry says the vessel overturned near Jinak village in the North Bank region and was later found grounded on a sandbank. 96 persons have been rescued so far, and search efforts continue for those still missing. The Atlantic route to Spain's Canary Islands has become an increasingly dangerous path for African migrants trying to reach Europe. Moving on, supporters of junta leader Mamadi Doumbouya are celebrating in Conakry after he was declared the winner of Guinea's presidential election. The vote held on 28th of December was the country's first since the 2021 coup. According to provisional results from the General Directorate of Elections, Doumbouya secured 86.72% of the vote. Former Education Minister Yero Bade finished a distant second with 6.51%. Officials say turnout stood at over 80% of the country's 6.7 million registered voters. Moving on from that story to Somalia, in the Horn of Africa, Somalia's defense ministry says its forces have killed 29 Al-Shabaab fighters in Jabal Gudan in the country's southeast with support from international partners. In a statement on X, the ministry said overnight airstrikes in the Middle Shabelle region also destroyed vehicles and weapons intended for attacks on civilians. Al-Shabaab has been fighting the Somali government since 2007, seeking to overthrow the internationally backed administration and impose its version of Sharia law. The ministry thanked international partners for ongoing support in the fight against terrorism. And from Somalia, we'll move straight to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the government has accused Rwanda of killing more than 1,500 civilians in the east of the country since early December, following a renewed offensive by the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels. In a statement, the Congolese government said the figures came from civil society groups and were confirmed by humanitarian and state sources. It described the attacks as a violation of international and national sovereignty and international law. M23 rebels seized the key eastern city of Uvira in South Kivu last month, forcing tens of thousands of people to flee into neighboring Burundi. The offensive began just days after Congo and Rwanda signed a U.S. brokered peace deal on the 4th of December. Kinshasa also accused Kigali of deploying 3 additional battalions into South Kivu with the aim of pushing towards the mineral-rich province of Tanganyika. The United Nations says around 500,000 people have been displaced by the recent fightings. Moving on to other stories in East Africa, at least 2 persons are feared dead after a multi-story building under construction collapsed in Nairobi's South Sea estate, sparking panic among residents and passersby. The National Disaster Management Unit says it deployed police and emergency teams after receiving an alert, while the Kenyan Red Cross confirmed a multi-agency search and rescue operations is underway. The incident comes less than a month after the National Construction Authority warned of structural risk at national high-rise under construction in Nairobi, following reports of visible cracks. Still in Kenya, at least 13 persons were killed and more than 20 others injured in 2 separate road accidents reported on New Year's Day in Inyakach, Kisumu County, and near Bont Forest along the Eldoret-Nakuru Highway. The deadliest crash occurred at Kitoto Kalish stage of the Homa Bay Kisumu Highway, where police say a vehicle lost control, killing at least 11 persons at the scene. 3 others were injured and taken to hospitals. In a second accident nearby, a public service vehicle collided head-on with a pickup truck after the pickup veered into the opposite lane. And in Liberia has taken a key step towards implementing the amended international health regulations after signing a national declaration of commitment in Monrovia. The declaration followed a 3-day technical workshop supported by the World Health Organization, which brought together about 80 experts from government, academia, civil society, and partner organizations. The meeting reviewed the 2024 amendments to the regulations and agreed on steps for their domestication, including institutional agreements and an implementation roadmap. The declaration was endorsed by senior ministers and signed by Vice President Jeremiah Pan-Kyong, who thanked the World Health Organization for its support and stressed the importance of preparedness and coordinated leadership in addressing public health threats. He said the move reflects Liberia's commitment to strengthening health security and applying lessons learned from past and ongoing public health emergencies. And to some other stories, Somalia has officially taken over the United Nations Security Council presidency, marking a significant milestone in its growing global prominence. The Horn of Africa's country is expected to lead the Security Council's affairs for the month of January, presiding over meetings and work agenda in the body, which is charged with the responsibility of maintaining international peace and security. Somalia's UN Security Council presidency will be headed by its permanent representative to the UN, Abukar Osman, succeeding Slovenia's Samuel Zboga. In a statement, the Somali mission to the UN said during its presidency, Somalia will facilitate constructive and inclusive dialogue. The rotating presidency role, which took effect on January the 1st, 2026, comes following Somalia's election into the 15-member UN Security Council as a non-permanent member last year. Liberia and the Democratic Republic of Congo were other African countries elected for a 2-year term starting January 1st, 2026. You're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. We'll go straight to the analysis segment of the news. And joining us now to make sense of these stories and more is from Uganda, virtually, Barrister Edward Okwaro Matakinye. Barrister Edward is a lawyer, a business associate, and also a human rights activist. Barrister, okay, I understand that he is now in. We're also expecting from Kenya virtually, Messi Ngota. Messi is a philanthropist, a religious leader, and a professional teacher, and also a human resource manager, as well as a political figure in Kenya. We're also expecting all the way from Liberia, Hanson Blayan, who is a media and communication expert. Well, also in the studio with us is Dr. Peter Anosike. Dr. Peter is an erudite scholar in education, finance, government, and also is a major writer right here in Nigeria. Doctor, a very, very good afternoon to you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, interestingly, I want to start off with this story coming in from the UN, clearly about the fact that Somalia has officially taken over the United Nations Security Council presidency, marking a significant milestone in the journey of a growing prominence in that country. Some have called this particular presidency as one that is huge for Africa, but on the heels of the fact that Africa have consistently been bedeviled with the takeover by military juntas across Africa, some clearly would say that this is a major milestone on the part of Africa as a continent, having Somalia taken over the presidency of the UN Security Council.
Well, for me, I see it as an opportunity, understand, that for Africa to take advantage of this position.
Okay.
So charity should begin at home and not at our way. Understand? This is an opportunity for the world to know what is going on in Africa. The Somalia should try and work 25 hours a day, not 24 hours.
Okay.
That to make sure that all the genocide, understand, indigo mining, and all the insecurities in Africa are exposed to the world.
Okay.
So for me, I see it as a very good opportunity, which can only come once in a lifetime. If we fail that to take advantage of this now, it will be too bad.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you on the path of the country Somalia. Just also in the bulletin, we understand that Somalia's defense ministry has said that they've killed 29 Al-Shabaab fighters in Jabad Godain, and of course that's around the country's southeast area. Of course, with the support of international partners, just like we have the U.S. did with Nigeria. How much of an impact is this victory with Somalia as a country would this presidency have? I'm talking about the UN presidency.
That is what I'm saying, because Al-Shabaab is being sponsored by Iran. And if there's any other time that to fight Al-Shabaab is now that Iran is about to fall.
Okay.
Because Iran is not likely going to survive or the crisis that is going on in the country now. So, and they will not have time to begin to sponsor or to aid their terrorists in different parts of the world.
Okay.
So, if there's any time that to fight all these terrorist group, it is now that Iran is under serious crisis. And I'm happy that Somalia, in particular, and Africa now have this opportunity at this point in time. So they should try that to make the best use out of it.
All right. Now, as an economist, let me come to the forte where you are totally big on. How much of an economic dependency would this UN presidency, security presidency, have on Somalia, a country, again, that is tagged as the Horn of Africa? How much of an impact on the economy would this presidency have?
Well, you first of all, before there's development, there must be security.
Okay.
So, and the economic turnaround will start when these insecurities are no more. When these terrorists are either pushed out of the country or are forced to surrender. That's when the economy of Somalia will begin to experience a rebound.
Okay.
So you cannot be building in time of war.
Now, you just said we can't be building in terms of war. And again, the Al-Shabaab have really, over time, disturbed the country.
Decimated the economy
of Somalia.
Country, sure.
So, and with this new presidency, Doctor, some are optimistic that this is really going to have a change of maybe FDI to that country. But from your perspective, should Al-Shabaab consistently continue with this fight? Do you think that Somalia can survive?
That's why I'm saying this is an opportunity to use that position and draw all the attention of the world to what's happening in their country. There's no other time that to do it other than now. This is the time that to draw attention of all the world powers in the world to what's happening in Somalia. Because right now, Somalia is not, it's a failed state. It is a failed state, and this is an opportunity for them to rebuild. And for them to rebuild, the terrorist group must be defeated.
Right.
And this is the time to defeat them that Iran is going through serious crisis.
All right, then. Well, I understand now that Barrister Edward Okwaro Matakinye has joined the conversation virtually all the way from Uganda. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you and Happy New Year to you.
Very good afternoon, David. How's Nigeria and my good senior counsel in the studio? Uganda is okay. Happy New Year to you guys. I'm
Okay.
grateful to meet you again.
Fantastic. And we're excited to have you as well. Well, we understand that the elections are gearing up in your country. First off, help Africans understand the mood in Uganda as we speak presently, and how much of an impact is the election circle moment having on Ugandans, particularly on a beautiful new year like 2026 that we are in?
David, I don't want to talk much about the elections in Uganda, but I can briefly tell you that the moods of the Ugandans just remains the same, because looks like they know the outcome of it. Where people actually expecting the same thing to remain, you get that there's no much change. People remain moving with their daily activities. Nothing like seriousness. You can get a change from anywhere. So the mood is just the same. We shall continue the way it is. We're only waiting the few days, I think on 15th.
Yes.
That is when we shall now hear from the Electoral Commission declaring the normal person to be on seat.
Okay. All right then. Well, we hope that as elections will be unfolding in your country, we hope to get both sides and sounds from you, possibly, if you would be available for that as well.
I beg your pardon, come again?
I'm saying that we hope that going into the election come January the 15th, we will be getting sights and sound from your country, particularly on election and as it goes in the country.
My network is getting off slightly.
Oh, so sorry about that. Well, let's get to the main conversation proper. I don't know if you can hear me now. Well, interestingly, news just broke about Somalia officially taking over the United Nations Security Council presidency, marking a significant milestone in its growing global dominance. Well, unfortunately, I hear that he is out. And of course, okay. Let me just stay with you. Barrister, right now, Somalia has just taken over the United Nations Security Council presidency. What's your take about these cheering news coming from Somalia?
Yes, David, you're with me.
All right. Yes, I was asking, what's your take about this cheering news coming from Somalia, particularly on the fact that Somalia has taken over the United Nations Security Council presidency from this January. Of course, it's going to be a month-long space. What's your position about this cheering news coming from that country?
I think to me, it's not something should not actually be worrying many, because what I feel, it's good for us to have that seat be moving like that. Though with the issues of Somalia, maybe that's why you should be asking yourself with the Al-Shabaab issue.
Right.
Is it going to be again a country which is going to revive a lot of issues concerning terrorism? Are they going to use the same position to revive? Are not going to settle other neighboring countries? Those are issues probably we can be worried of, but I don't see any problem at all.
All right then. Well, interestingly as well, the security operatives in Somalia clearly have said, the defense minister, I beg your pardon, has said that 29 Al-Shabaab fighters were killed in Jabad Godin in the country's southeast, with, of course, the support of international partners. You would recall as well, even right here in Nigeria, Donald Trump and, of course, the U.S. military also did disseminate some terrorists. What do you make of these kind of news coming across Africa, particularly with Somalia and, of course, their new position as the presidency of the United Nations Security Council?
I think with now the Somalia actually taking up the chairmanship of UN, which is not good. I think the resources will be collected rightly to resolve the issues of insecurity. Somalia has been too much in insurgencies, war, and what have you. So I think with the help of international communities, international partners, they will be actually in a position to bring that country also to a map whereby people, those who have gone run to other countries, will now try to get back and invest in their country. Not even that Somalia is part of Africa, so we feel Africa will also be gaining on the other hand. Al-Shabaab would be actually cleared on the other hand. That is one of the targets. One of the goals.
Okay.
We feel Somalia should engage mostly, so that now the peace can actually get back to the region. Yes.
All right, then let's take this conversation back to the studio here. Doctor, interestingly, we hear another accusation coming from the DRC, clearly accusing Rwanda of killing more than 1,500 civilians in the east of the country since early December. You would also recall, of course, with the renewed offensive by the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels. Now, you would also recall that in December as well, the city of, Uvira, also was taken over by these M23 rebels. What's your position with this kind of accusation, even though there's been a truce path that was signed in Washington with the help of Doha?
For me, I'm disappointed about this kind of news coming from Africa. African leaders should grow up. You cannot get this kind of news in Europe. Understand me?
Right.
You cannot get this kind of news in South America or anywhere.
You mean the part of militias taking over cities?
Just Rwanda killing people from under.
In the DRC?
They are still giving this impression that we are still that's in the primitive age. They are still giving the impression that's the impression that Europeans have about Africans as primitive people, because you cannot hear now the United Kingdom, that's Britain, Ireland, Scotland, Wales.
Right.
Understand? They are not fighting over anything. They are not. You cannot hear that somebody from Scotland, that the Scottish government has killed any person from the Irish government. So why is it always Africa? Why are they always keep on demonstrating that Africa is an uncivilized continent?
But doctor, there's also the conversation about the fact that this is practically based on the resource in the country. Do you share that sentiment?
So those countries don't have resources. I know that the mineral resources in Africa, some of the resources are being triggered from the Western world.
Okay.
But this is not a part of government killing and understanding. There's a difference between an organization killing and the state killing. Understand me?
Right.
So African leaders should unite. African leaders should grow up. You don't fall into the knives of your enemies. You don't succumb to the propaganda of your enemies. And that's what African leaders are doing on a daily basis.
Now, doctor,
which is very, very unfortunate.
I'm still going to stay with you. There is also the concern about the truce pact that was signed in Washington. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the U.S., have clearly said that anybody who is found guilty in the violation of these pacts will be sanctioned. Even with that statement, Uvira was still taken over by the M23 rebels. What does that speak to that part? Some have said that this is clearly not speaking to the root cause of the problem, but rather the face value of the problem. What's your position?
Well, for me, You know, that's America. They're always very tactical and very strategic.
Right.
In Nigeria, people were asking, "Is Donald Trump not coming again? Is Donald Trump not coming again?" That he texted that he will come either in November. Understand? So they're always strategic in their thinking and in the things that they do. So once there are three people that I see in America that think the same way: J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, and Rubio.
Right.
Rubio is very interested in occupying the White House, so he will want to be seen as a man of his words.
Okay.
And I know whatever he has promised, he will do it. That's at the right time.
So you think, as it stands, his words about sanctioning whoever is found guilty
He would do it.
would truly be sanctioned?
He will do it.
All right, then let's take this conversation to Uganda. Barrister, interestingly, this same conversation keeps coming up and again. 1,500 Democratic Republic of Congo civilians were killed by the M23 rebels just in December alone. How much of an impact is that having on the truce pact that was signed in Washington by the two governments? And I'm talking about the government of Rwanda and, of course, Felix Tshisekedi, the government of the DRC.
Thank you, David. You know, when we talk about the issues of Congo, I remember when the agreement was signed before His Excellency Trump. I knew that was not a genuine agreement at the first place, because one, you bring His Excellency President Ruto in a team of genuine people. It is spoiled because Ruto was chairing these meetings some time back,
Right.
which means he did not achieve the goal at the first place because he was sponsoring most of the activities in the wrong way. Ruto, being part of the witnesses in the US at that point, diluted that agreement not to be a strong agreement. So actually the issue, the reason why people from Congo are actually dying at the moment when the agreement was already executed, it is unfortunate that even the government of US did not look at this issue critically. So I feel there was no agreement which was signed. That was just something for political reasons, but still the people of Congo remain suffer because the region itself is in problems. We cannot sustain our issues at home. Until that time, probably Africa gets leaders which are with impact, people who will come and value the lives of people, human rights.
Now,
but as we talk right now,
yes.
Africa is totally out of actual hand
Now, it's
when it
interesting.
comes like human rights.
It's interesting you did mention the position of William Ruto, the president of Kenya, in this whole conversation, because truly he was part of the negotiations before now, but the result was not achieved. Why do you think African problems cannot be solved by even African leaders? Is this speaking to the fact that we do not have strong leaders? Plus, we do not also have strong institutions like that of the UN? Or is the AU clearly toothless, as some quarters have assumed right now?
That one of the reasons why Africa will always remain is because of the institutions which are not strengthened. Let's talk about the AU, African Union. It is the body which is actually, which Africans thought it would actually carry most of the issues and resolving problems, internal issues within Africa. But AU has become like an independent institution which actually encourages impunity in Africa, because I don't see the chairman of AU even as we talk, coming up in most of these cases and condemning them. Instead, he comes up to actually encouraging impunity. So African leadership is a problem. It is calling. We just need to look at what Africa needs to do, how Africans should come together so that we can resolve the leadership
All right,
problem.
now, before
and
we...
now, is.
All right, then. Before we wrap up this conversation, let me bring it back to the studio. Doctor, on the economic part of this whole conversation, M23 rebels have taken over major cities in the eastern part of the DRC. After the agreement, Donald Trump did say clearly that the two countries will be gaining more on the part of economy from the U.S. With these kind of stories coming out of the DRC, do you think this truce part will still continue with the U.S. government involved?
What Donald Trump really means, that's by the two countries that's gaining, is when peace is allowed to come in.
Right.
Because where there's no peace, there can never be development. So, DR Congo is rich in natural resources, and that's one of the reasons that it is suffering, that it has been suffering since independence. Understand? So, what God put under their soil, it became that's a cause to them, which is very, very unfortunate. But this thing has been there, even though Western world has a hand in it, because they regard Africa as a continent for cheap natural resources. That's what they think of Africa. Understand? They're not expecting Africa to become a first world nation, because when they become a first world nation, their price will increase.
Two questions before I let you out. And of course, I'm going to send same question to Barrister. Should Africa want to become a first world nation? Is democracy part of the mix that would help them achieve it? Because we see several takeovers by military junta leaders all across Africa. One of which an example right now is the leader in Guinea. I'm talking about Mamadi Doumbouya, who again in Conakry have clearly been declared winner of the Guinea's presidential election, the December 28th presidential election that was held in Guinea. Do you think that in any way, if we're going to be achieving to get into the first world nation, democracy will be part of it?
We need the right leadership. That's the most important thing. We need the right leadership. Fundamental human rights should be observed and allowed. Understand?
Whether or not it's democracy or military.
You cannot have a fundamental human rights in a
I was going to go there. Really.
You cannot have a fundamental human rights because military is an aberration in governance. They are not trained to govern. Rather, they are trained to defend the territorial integrity of their countries. So we need the right leadership. And again, we need to evolve internally, not externally. Because who prepares the piper must dictate the tune. You can, IMF, World Bank cannot help you to evolve.
Well, let's take this conversation to Uganda, and Barrister, maybe in another 30 seconds while we wrap up this conversation. Doctor here did say that we need to evolve internally, and this is a major quest for Africans. But from what we are hearing from Conakry, Guinea, that the military leader presently have been declared winner of the December 28th election. What's your position about having to move from democracy to another military regime across Africa, like we're seeing in some countries?
Yes, Actually, Africa has moved from democracy to military. I assure you, for the lack of a better word, democracy has been defiled in Africa. And until we get back to the roots of the issues we are having ourselves. But if we continue saying we take these matters outside Africa and handle them like you see what happened with Rwanda and Congo, that our agreements should be signed before superpowers. We need to do these things within home. Let's strengthen our institutions, then Africa will stand. And now let's realize military is not the way. Just as I expect what is going to happen in Uganda here. And before I forget, David, I would also request, probably if you feel you want to get more information about the elections in Uganda, I'm at home. I'm totally available. I can organize for you 2 or 3 people. Now that you can sponsor them so that we can work hand in hand to observe elections and give you good news. So I leave you that to actually make a decision on your side.
All right,
so
then.
Africa is in a problem. That is what I can tell you.
All right, then, Bobby of the African News. I want to say big thank you to Barrister Edward Okwara Matakinye. Barrister Edward is a human rights activist and a lawyer and also a business associate. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being here always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
And of course, we would be getting back to you on your request of having to be an election observer for Voice of the People TV in Uganda. All right, then. We want to say big... All right, thank you so very much. We want to say big thank you to Dr. Peter Anosike, an erudite scholar in economy, finance, and of course, government. He is also an economist and a major writer right here in Nigeria. Once again, thank you so very much, Doctor, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll take a very short break right now. When we return, the rest of the African news will be up next. Please do stay with us. Glad to have you back. It is still the African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. Senegalese President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has announced higher public investment for 2026 with a focus on education, health, and access to water. He made the pledge in his New Year's address to the nation. Faye said more than 62 billion CFA francs will be invested in the new education infrastructure, including the construction of 2,500 classrooms. The health sector will receive an additional 91 billion CFA to build 35 community health centers, complete the Damandel Oncology Hospital, and strengthen medical facilities nationwide. Access to water was also highlighted as a strategic priority with plans to launch the Grand Water Transfer Project. And from that story, we move straight to talking business. Turkey says it will send a drilling vessel to Somalia in February for the country's first deepwater exploration project abroad. Turkish Energy Minister Alparslan Bayraktar said the operation using the Kagri Bay vessel will focus on Somali offshore waters, though details on reserve and investment were not disclosed. The move follows an energy exploration deal Turkey signed with Somalia in 2024, part of Ankara's effort to diversify energy sources and reduce reliance